this reform is not just on rationalizing rates. It's also on structural reforms. It's also on ease of living. Common man items such as hair oil, toilet soap, soap bars, shampoos, toothbrushes, toothpaste, bicycles, tableware, kitchenware, and other household articles have all come to fight.
अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी।
From trial rooms to billing counters, the GST rate rationalization exercise is truly kicking in consumption in the country. And today we come to you from a DLF Promenade Mall right here in the heart of New Delhi. And what better way to find out more about the kind of consumption unlock that the exercise has brought about than to join the Senior Executive Director of DLF Malls right here with a bag in hand, ma'am. It truly seems like shopping is a therapy after the rate rationalization exercise. Give us a sense of what you have witnessed over the past 7 days, given the fact that this is the first weekend that we're witnessing.
Well, thank you for talking to me. Well, I can tell you this, that there is a lot of buzz in the malls as and when the GST announcement has taken place, and also the income tax rate cut, right?
Right.
It's a combination of everything. So we do believe that the consumption is going to be on the uptick and the footfall is going to surge.
Okay.
And the timing couldn't be better because it's the onset of the festive season. And this time festivities are starting early. So I think 22nd September couldn't have been better timed.
Better timed, truly, when we talk about that. But in terms of a consumption unlock that we're talking about, could you give us a sense of numbers in terms of the footfall, in terms of the kind of sales that you have seen across your several malls right here in New Delhi and in Chandigarh over the past 7 days?
So what we have seen is that there is a sense of buoyancy in the market, and the footfall has seen a healthy uptick. And today is the first weekend after GST, and I already see people around milling in the malls. What I do think is going to happen is that most of the brands, they have also really looked at rationalizing their prices and communicating it well to the consumers. So this first weekend is going to be an interesting one for us to see. What we're also seeing is that, brands like, say, H&M or Lifestyle or Uniqlo, they're actually talking about rates which were dropped because of the rate cut. They have many products which are 2,500 and below, and hence you will see two price tags when you shop in Next, and you'll say, okay, the earlier price was 2,400, now it's going to be, cut down to 5%, and then, at a lower price, and that gives a joy to the consumer, any kind of saving like that. And added to that is that shopping centers like us, we're going to be having a shopping festival starting this festive season, which is in October. We usually do it Navratra and beyond. And the shopping festival will have a lot more in terms of gifting and value adds. So when a customer comes in here, the customer is going to see, yes, rate cuts. The salons are going to get better, so you can, it's 5% now for services. You're going to see food is at 5%. So when a customer sees a bill which is slightly easy on the wallet, I'm sure that will bring a smile to their
So, ma'am, I'll come to the categories in just a bit. Very interestingly, you also talked about, brands like H&M and clothing-related brands where GST upwards of the 2,500 price tag is slightly higher. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but give us a sense of the kind of sentiment that you're witnessing. Is it more driven by festive sentiment, or are the footfalls that you're witnessing at the moment, are they driven more by the GST rate rationalization exercise, which the Prime Minister also stated that it is going to benefit small and medium companies the most, and of course it is for the middle class and the neo-middle class?
Of course. So, as I said, festive season is definitely be a booster, which is why governments also timed it that way. we will have to wait and watch to see over the next 3-4 months how it'll play out in terms of permanency. What I can see from a customer point of view is that if your grocery bills are going to be better, if you're going to have regular products that you are living, that's going to get more reasonable. You will have more discretionary amounts in your wallet to spend. And you're not going to feel that guilty because, you know, you go out to pick up something in a restaurant or you're coming in for normal services. If you feel that there is, again, a rationale in terms of the taxes, it's definitely going to boost sentiment. How much of it? One will have to give it 3-4 months. You know,
so which categories are smiling the most at the counter at the moment?
I think F&B and services are definitely smiling. And in any mall, we have, you know, 40% is services and food and beverage. So it's a big chunk. And yes, they'll definitely be smiling. Along with that, I would say a lot of the made in India brands, D2C brands, they have come in and you will see that their pricing is pretty reasonable. I'm sure interestingly, I think that merchandising is going to make a big shift. So if you were an H&M or you were a Uniqlo, you would consciously look at, you know, merchandising products which are 2,500 and below to give you the volume boost. And there will be some aspirational boost. So it'll be a combination, your bucket size. When you shop, you'll shop some things for 6,000, some things for 2,500. So it'll be that mix that will get interesting.
Right. An average order value, would you be able to throw some light on that in terms of how much are you expecting the average order value to go up? And of course, the kind of trends that you witnessed in this regard over the past 7 days.
See, typically department stores you walk into, Uniqlo or H&M, their order value is somewhere around 7,000 to 8,000. A person picks up 2-3 products. You can't walk into a Uniqlo and not pick up 3 products, right? And with that, what we do see is that that order value will go up. Maybe the 3 will become 4, and that is the hope that we have, you know. But as I said, it is early time. One should look at the season and how it plays out. And the other element that I'd like to say is that Delhi especially, we are expecting, the weatherman says, we're expecting early and intense winter, which is always good news for organized retail because the winter wear is where, you know, in terms of sales also it gets very, very good. So yes, I think that should also be an interesting play out.
So ma'am, in terms of this year's festive sales versus last year's festive sales, how much are you anticipating in terms of a surge?
Last year's festive sales was a little subdued. There were multiple reasons. Last year's festival sales we thought would be around 13 to 14%. Actually, it was around 9%. This time, of course, we expect double digits. We expect from a sales point of view should at least double the inflation. You know, so we should look at, you know, anything between 12%. That would be our thought in terms of surge. But let's see, wait and watch.
And from this overall GST rate rationalization exercise, you know, what kind of numbers are you anticipating? If you could give us, you know, a ballpark figure.
Well, you know, any forward-looking statement is something that we don't, as you know.
But double digits? Would that be safe to
we can say double digit, yes.
So double-digit growth is essentially what you're estimating. But Pam, when you talk about last year versus this year, I mean, we have to also factor in that businesses across the globe are facing geopolitical headwinds, right, in terms of the kind of decisions that are currently being taken. There is a supply chain shift that we're currently seeing in global trade. Is that somewhere weighing in on brands, you know, balance sheets, and how are brands sort of navigating that particular headwind?
Now, every brand for the season, they're always ordering and picking up products 6 months before the season actually comes in. So any impact of that nature will be visible only 6 months or 8 months further. You know, it'll probably be visible in the summer merchandise or it'll be visible in the next fall. But before that, the order would have been done, the merchandising would have been completed, and the manufacturing would have started. So that's the way the role goes. And I'm sure everyone from a Zara to, you know, all the department stores and the fashion retailers are thinking hard on, as I said, merchandising, and how that will play out. Yes.
So yes, we were talking about the fact that, all the items that are below the 2,500 price tag, they attract a lower GST versus those that are upwards of 2,500. In fact, we've also been talking to retailers, most of whom essentially say that, hey, we're not going to be passing on the burden to consumers, at least till the festive season. And after that, probably they'll recalibrate their strategy and they'll have a relook at, what they're going to be doing. Is that the sense that you're also picking from retailers right here?
Absolutely. I think they will let go, they will absorb when the festive season's concerned, they will absorb whatever is the increase because they would look at volume and hence they would look at offloading their merchandise through volume. After that, they'll definitely have to pass on a little bit probably. That's the sense that one gets, not entirely. But they will have to recalibrate how the order values are within and to make sure that their profitability is not impacted at the same time. The consumer doesn't feel the hit of improvement or increase in tax.
Right, so let me also ask you a connected question with respect to this particular category. Now, premiumization as a trend has been sort of going on strong since the past at least 2.5 years. Do you think that is expected to take a hit because of the fact that there are no benefits sort of which accrue to this particular premium category?
No, when I talk to the retailers, they say that I don't think so because they are very clear that it's not going to be the case for 2-3 reasons. An aspiring consumer is not going to say no to purchase of a certain bag or a certain watch because there is a, bump up by around 4-5%. It's not going to really impact. However, what they may look at is, do I want to buy X value or Y value? So again, it comes down to when you look at it, that all the retailers are saying brands are not going to get impacted, but particular pieces, if someone's going to pick up X value, maybe they'll go, look at another value and see what's their budget. But other than that, premiumization is here to stay. We see millennials and Gen Zers to be far more confident in their purchasing. And as you can see across between our luxury malls or premium malls, it's the Gen Zers and millennials who are at the forefront of purchase. And they are an extremely confident generation who are all in creating startups and unicorns at a very young age.
Right.
So they don't look at everything price generated. They look at value and they look at what they're able to communicate with the kind of, they look at personal branding very seriously.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
so definitely that's a growing consumer group that you have, at least as far as the premiumization story goes, and it's going to go on strong is something that you're suggesting. But ma'am, if we could also perhaps talk about, the kind of consumption market that India is. The domestic consumption market is humongous, especially for brands that are based globally. They're looking at India as a big market, right? So are you sort of getting any interest from more brands, more global brands to set up their base in India? The kind of interest that they are expressing with respect to DLF malls?
That is an interesting question. And over the past whole year and a half, we've seen multiple new brands coming in. Recently at MAPIC I was there, and the number of brands who are interested in coming to India is only increasing because of 2-3 reasons. Very clearly, the demographic dividend that we have at age 29, any retailer, be it luxury or premium or any category, international brand, know that this is a market that they cannot ignore. And the second reason is that it's just not the number of people, it's also our per capita income is only growing, And India has got levels of India, right? So there is one India which is growing at a certain pace, but we have fired the engines at all quarters. The other aspect to think about is that, well, Europe is aging, Japan is aging, China's got its issues. The brands are looking for newer markets, and India is the most attractive market. From our domestic consumption is far higher than, we don't really rely on tourist consumption.
Absolutely.
For us, it's the domestic audience.
And it's the domestic consumption story that's holding the India growth story intact as well, given the fact that there's so many headwinds also that we're seeing, right?
And I would also add one more thing. We at DLF, far before it became the buzzword, which is Make in India, we created a platform for many of the Indian brands to come into the organized retail space. So in Mall of India, we were the first ones to have given, I think, 2 floors for Indian, and we named it Indian Boulevard very, very proudly. Most of our food and beverage brands are domestically curated. People with exposure, but it's really domestic curation more than just brands coming in from overseas. Right. So we have seen a big surge in our portfolio. Around 30% of the brands in apparel, etc., are actually made in India brands.
Made in India brands,
which is really very important to understand. And so we have international brands, we have made in India brands, we have food and beverage, again split into a lot of Indian brands, and probably just around 20% of the F&B that we have is brands that are coming in from overseas, because, you know, by the time they pay royalties, food is very, very individual, and tastes are very, you know, curated. And I think we are the ones who've created different forms of sushi, if I may say so. Very innovative.
Absolutely. But let me also get back to the point about GST that we were talking about in terms of implementation, right? I mean, the rates have been finalized. There are 2 tax slabs, and of course, a mega push from the government side has been given. But in terms of implementation, what exactly are brands facing? Are there any implementation hurdles they're facing at the moment? And what would your appeal to the government be on that front?
Well, I think from an implementation standpoint, they gave timing of, I think, a 20-day window. So I do know that the brands were all sort of scurrying in that 20-day window.
That wasn't enough then?
They felt that they could have got a little bit more time. That was one aspect. But needless to say, I think retail as a whole, and retailers specifically, change is the only constant. They are very quick at adapting to change, and they put their head around it. And yes, bang on 22nd, we saw 2 labels. In a Uniqlo store you go, you will see 2 price tags on many of their products. You know, the older one and the newer one, which is slightly lower. So yes, they put it together. But if you ask me, they would say, I wish we had got a little bit more time.
A bit more time is essentially what retailers are looking at. But ma'am, in terms of the simplification of the tax structure, now you have 2 slabs. What does that do to smaller brands that are particularly operating? Does it bring them on par with bigger brands?
So, you know that there are multiple D2C brands that have come into fore, right? And D2C is a story which is here to stay. Now, for the D2C brands, it's an interesting time. You look at Instagram, many of the D2C brands are priced somewhere around 2,500, 2,800, 3,000. And if they get their act right, they have a real story to tell here. It's an opportunity that the government's given. So if they do it right and get their blends right, some, you know, let's say 40% of their products are at that level, and a few are at a higher level, then what they would be able to do is create a market, which is a multitude of market. You know, so you may get the middle class shopping at a D2C brand and an aspiring class shopping at a D2C brand, depending on pricing. So what the government is really trying to do is getting the middle class to also shop.
Welcome back. You're watching ET Now at Ground Zero. And ladies and gentlemen, we are tracking the aftermath of GST rate rationalization exercise that kicked off about 7 days back. Before going into break, we did hear from DLF Mall's Pushpa Bector to get a retail perspective. But what's the perspective as far as e-commerce companies are concerned, as far as e-commerce overall and quick commerce as a category is concerned? To discuss that and more, we're now joined by Satish Meena. He's the founder of Datum Intelligence. Thank you very much, Mr. Meena, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. We did hear from Pushpa Bector to get a perspective on on-ground retail, but what's been the overall scenario over these past 7 days as far as e-commerce sales are concerned?
Thanks, Sumita. Good to be here. This year what we are tracking is not only e-commerce sales, we are also get a sense of what's happening in offline. But to talk about e-commerce, we have 2 things which are going in customers' mind. One is the GST cut. Second is the discounts and product launch, which is again customers have a wish list for all these festive days, and they were ready. There was a dip before festive after 15th of August, but I think last 7 days or maybe 6 days which we are tracking, the sales are much better. We are seeing much better traffic on across all e-commerce platforms, not limited to one. And the other thing is in terms of spending. So till now, we have seen around 25 to 30% increase as compared to last year. And that's significant enough because last year, the sales were not that great for e-commerce companies. Then the second thing is, overall, if you take the full month, our estimate is around 13 billion worth of sales will happen during this whole month.
13 billion in just 1 month.
1 month from this to Diwali. And out of that, almost 5 billion has already happened as of now in the last 6 days. And, this weekend is again more crucial because of
So when you talk about this 5 billion number, is this only for e-commerce sales?
It's only for e-commerce.
Okay,
It's
okay.
only for
But
e-commerce.
what's the overall retail perspective that you have in terms of how much will be clocked in these 30 to 35 days?
So retail is difficult to predict it because we have, but I think, when we talk to often retailers, I think they are also seeing almost 10 to 15% growth in their sales across categories. So they are also good because ultimately GST returns is for everyone to see. And the other thing is, for some period of time, we're seeing a continuous decline in footfall in malls. We expect that to come back during this festive period, at least for this month. And let's see how it
Absolutely,
goes.
and experiences are going to be key, events are going to be key, and events economy with the onset of the festive season gets caked off, and that remains to be seen on the kind of impact that this is going to have on overall retail numbers. But Mr. Meena, when you talk about e-commerce sales, you have mentioned 5 billion has been clocked in just the past 7 days.
That's right.
How does that change the estimates that you have for e-commerce growth this year versus last year?
So that was saying, last year...
Overall.
So last year we estimated around 94,000 crore during the whole month of festive. This year our estimate is around 1.2 lakh crore. And based on these numbers, I think we are in line.
But how does that change the overall growth figure
it was
for
around
e-commerce
so
this fiscal? I'm talking about the whole fiscal.
So last year, if we saw, the overall e-commerce market grew around 15 to 18%. The growth was not that great, and it was the slowest in last 5 to 6 years. This year, we saw the first quarter starting from March, things were looking good. We have seen an uptick in sales in March. Then again, the Amazon Prime Day went well, and now this festive is doing well. So we are expecting around more than 20% growth this year as compared to last year, which is
20%
again
growth is definitely great. But in terms of categories that will drive this growth, do you want to focus a bit more on that?
See, in our e-commerce, if you see by value, it's smartphone, which still leads. Almost 40% of value is smartphone, followed by fashion, appliances, and grocery, which is becoming big. But grocery is more driven by quick commerce. It's not driven by horizontal marketplaces now. So that will remain the same. If we talk about these 7 days, smartphone is again the fastest growing category, almost 30% as compared to last year. We have seen a very good uptake in TVs. Again, both number of TVs purchased and the upgrade from 32 to 14. That's because of GST cuts. Then, categories, if we talk about, mattresses, again, a very good category. Home appliances, furniture, AC, again, doing very good, almost 20% growth. Fashion and beauty cosmetics in the range of 20%, both of them. Then,
but there was that concern. When you talk about fashion, there is that concern that perhaps, for clothing that's above, clothing and apparel above the 2,500 price bracket, the GST increases. So perhaps that will impact demand. Is that not something that you're witnessing?
I don't think, as of now,
Why
there's
would
an
you say
impact.
that?
Because, the customers which, the brand which they want, they have kind of made up their mind of the spending. So it's not impacting a lot. And if you see, there is a cut also. It's not only that there is a GST increase in about 2,500, and below 2,500 also there is some cushion given to customer because the rates have reduced for below 2,500. So we have not seen much impact on that because of GST. There might be some impact on, post-festive period, but as of now, there's no impact on spending.
But do you anticipate this momentum will continue after festive sale days are over, after the festive season is over, given the fact that GST rates are here to stay? But will this momentum sustain?
See, this momentum started since March. So it's not that this is all happening because of GST. So once customers have more money to spend, it's not only linked to GST. There's tax cuts which they got. There are, GST cuts now. Plus, in general, there is spending coming back to the market. And credit was a concern, but I think that is something also will pick up now because of RBI norms. Credit was becoming a little difficult, but that will solve in some period of time. So, things will pick up. So it's not only, if it is GST driven, then it will be short term, but it started before GST and it would continue after GST also.
Well, with that, thank you very much, Mr. Meena, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap from us here on this special show on ET Now. Hope you liked watching the show as much as we did putting it together for you. From me and the entire team, goodbye and thank you very much for watching.